Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Big thanks as always to my subscribers. Really appreciate the support. And lately it's been quite a mix of different things on the channel, so I think that's even more reason to appreciate the support. So this is a book review, and this is a book review of a book that is quite different to what I normally read, but I wanted to read it for Audible August, as it was a music themed book. And I read the back of it in the bookshop, and it looked really interesting and different. And it really was different, especially different for me. So I'd definitely call it literary fiction. For I don't know, something I'm not really sure why, but I'd call it literary fiction. I don't read a lot of literary fiction, so it was a bit different. This is a translated work. It's a Japanese book by Natsu Miyashita, and it's called The Forest of Wool and Steel. So Miyashita was a pianist before she wrote the book, and you can see that in the book itself. I was wondering when I was reading it whether she had any history with the piano, because if she did, it would explain the content of the book and the purpose of the book, the tone of the book, and the journey that the main character goes on. So the main character is Tamura, and he's a man who at the beginning, or a young sort of teenager who at the beginning he's not really sure what he wants to do with his life, and basically meets a piano tuner, or he hears a piano being tuned, and he's drawn to it, and he finds it really fascinating. He finds the piano itself fascinating, and that kind of starts his journey into his love for the piano and his love for piano tuning. And basically this book is a huge love letter to the piano and love letter to music, and I find it really interesting and intriguing and surprising that the focus of that is piano tuning rather than piano playing. So there's a lot of piano playing in it, but only in the context of testing the sound that's been made by the piano tuner. So there's a lot of poetic analogies being made about what a piano tuner can do, and that seems to be more of an emphasis than the playing itself, which I found quite surprising, but kind of interesting. And that, I guess because it's such a major part of the book, it's what is fascinating about the book. But what the book is trying to do, I think, is trying to give life lessons and very gentle, soft, philosophical musings around the progress that Tamura makes, and some of the things he learns, and some of the advice he gets from the three mentors he has, and the lady that works at the piano tuning place as well, and all this different advice he gets. And this kind of like, as he comes of age, as he becomes more of an expert in piano tuning and more of an adult, he gets this advice, and he changes his outlook on life through the book. And there are a few recurring characters. There's some twins that play piano that are central to the plot, and they are a big part of the beginning, and then without any spoilers they turn up at the end. You can't really spoil this book because there's not really any plot, but they do turn up at the end, and that starts a big final conclusion, if you could say it's a conclusion. It's a bit odd really, because there's no plot. It's literally a book about a young man that is struggling with self-doubt and his place in the world and his purpose, and his comfort around people. And literally the book is just him struggling with that while he tunes pianos. So So I thought it was written really well. It's a very lovely book, but it's a very soft, gentle book. And like, as I said, not a lot happens. But it's interesting the fact that it's so romantic. It is so romantic. It's probably the most romantic book I've ever read. But the romance is not between two people. It's between Tamura and piano tuning and pianos. And again, it's such an interesting thing that it's not Tamura and piano playing. There is a lot of romanticism wrapped around playing, but it's a smaller part of the emphasis in the book to the tuning of pianos. And you learn a few little bits. Music nerds will probably like the references to how the A after middle C is 440 hertz, but it wasn't 440 hertz historically in the East. And there's little bits about how Beethoven standardized pianos to 88 keys, and the references the stars and links it to astronomy. That's a nice little moment in the book, and music nerds might like that. The Forest of Wool and Steel is a nickname that one of the mentors that Tamura has makes about pianos and about piano tuning. So that's where the title comes from. And there is this really, what I liked the most, I think, is the romantic tone it has on pianos. The romantic tone it gives to pianos. Because, as I've said on this channel before, and why I called the channel what I called it, there is an undeniable magic in music. It's the most obvious miracle in the world. I'd say, I guess, the way that animals and living things in general reproduce is also a miracle, but music is so special and it's so unique. And in this book, the music that pianos make conjures up images. That's what the author keeps saying. It conjures up all these images of forests and smells and certain moods and tones, which is obviously quite an easy thing to relate to. I think music can do a lot more than that, but that's what the book decided to focus on, which is fantastic. And you do really get that sense, and you get that sense of the 4 piano tuners that are in the book really striving to achieve that in their tuning of the pianos. You also get that in the playing, but again, there's not as much playing in the book. So it's a fascinating book, and it's a book that took me by surprise. I mean, it will do, because I think it's quite an unusual setup anyway. I'm not even going to call it a plot, because it's not really a plot. But it's an unusual setup, and ultimately an exercise in characterization, but characterization within the context of romanticizing pianos and music. So if you think that sounds interesting to you, then check it out. It's a very short, lovely book. Natsume Ishita's The Forest of Wool and Steel. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.